This Week in Richmond is made possible in part by Dignity Memorial, caring for our communities with a network of funeral homes and cemeteries in Virginia and throughout North America. More information about Dignity Memorial's providers is online at dignitymemorial.com. Alpha Natural Resources, an energy company dedicated to respecting the land. Alpha Natural Resources, we power the world through the energy of our people. Haley Buick GMC, the place for a new Verano or Terrain Denali, in Richmond and online at haleybuickgmc.com. Everywhere there are lighting poles, there's one more opportunity to save money. Intelligent Illuminations provides cost-effective wireless lighting solutions for roadway or area outdoor lights. Kanawha Valley Arena, Virginia's cowboy town, hosting an array of events from Civil War reenactments to diesel truck pulls. More information online at virginiarodeo.com. The Virginia Chamber of Commerce, the voice of the Virginia business community, working in legislative, regulatory, and political arenas to promote the free enterprise system. So what do you do? Information about getting involved in advanced technology careers, making everything from clean energy to life-saving medicine, is available at dreamitdoitvirginia.com. Additional support is provided by these sponsors. And by the members of Virginia's public television stations. Thank you.
Welcome to This Week in Richmond, and a very special welcome to the two of you. You've been here before. I think, in fact, you were here before you were on the show together, maybe with one other colleague, yeah. Delegate Betsy Carr from the Richmond area, Delegate Riley Ingram from Hopewell.
Thank you.
Appreciate the two of you being on. As we were talking some before we started the show, you know, friends don't always vote the same way in different political parties, but friends. You know, as I was looking at the year, Delegate Carr, that you first started serving, 2010, after the 2009 election, that there are 20 members of that class that are still here. Mm-hmm. In fact, you know, you've heard people over the years talk about term limits. 75 of the 100 members of the House have been here only 10 years.
Yes.
Or less.
Mm-hmm.
Some.
That's right.
Now, amidst that, we have people with longer experience, and Delegate Ingram, fifth in seniority now.
I've been here, this is my 23rd year, and number 5, and that's down low. I never thought I'd get that low. I really didn't.
Yes.
Anyway.
Well, several of your colleagues retired the last time, and you all just all moved up in seniority. We're having, to let our viewers know that we're having this conversation on the Monday before the Wednesday reconvene day. They'll be seeing the show later this week here in the Richmond area. When they see it on Sunday, you already will have had the reconvene day. So why don't you, if you would, start with talking about anything you want to about reconvene day, and then about issues in the past session or issues that are still keeping you tied up as you're finishing up matters.
David, one of the big issues with me, and you know, as I was telling you earlier, when I was in school, even in the first grade, second grade, I went to first, second, third grade. I went to Enon School there in Chesterfield, and the teacher taught. Ms. Burry was the first and second grade teacher, and I've forgotten who third and fourth, but fifth and sixth was Ms. Burry. I remember that, and she was also the principal of the school. It was 3 rooms there, and even then we had a little old squawk box on the wall, and we'd had morning devotions. I mean, that was the way it was, and you stood and they read a prayer from the Bible, and then you did the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag, and we sat down. Well, the governor has vetoed a bill that I feel like that our forefathers that founded this great country on, you know, the freedom of religion, that I'm going to vote personally to override the governor's veto on that, because I think that the school children should have the right to pray if they want to pray or whatever in school. We pray every day at 12 o'clock noon when we go into session. We have prayer, with, whoever is there that's invited us to. In other words, we do not push any religion. They can pray to anyone they want to. But we do have prayer every day, and then we do the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. What concerns me is in time, are they going to do away with the prayer even at the Capitol of Virginia? And I do have a problem with that. So I will vote to override the governor on that. And the governor and myself are friends, but I just disagree with him on that one.
Is that an issue that you have a position similar to
Well,
Riley's or different? Or?
Probably a little different in terms of I am outreach director at St. Paul's Episcopal Church, so certainly I'm an advocate for people being able to express themselves in their faith, not imposing that on other folks. But I think that one of the strengths of our country is the separation of church and state. It makes each of them stronger if they remain separate. And I think that I appreciate the prayer that we have every day at 12 in the General Assembly, and I think that helps. It's a kind of a centering moment, and I think it's important to, allow for expression of all the religions. And I also think that what Riley said about the schools, I know that we have that now in some of our schools. They have the morning quietness or whatever, but I also think in some of the schools that are in my district, it's very difficult if there's a box interrupting like the time that they have, or it can be a kind of intrusion all day, not only for the prayer but for everything else. So I think because of the time, the way that we're today with our so many demands in our schools, with having so much to get done, an interruption, that makes things happen in the class sometimes is not always the best thing. That's not to say that first a morning of quiet or kind of getting things started, a moment of quiet in the beginning of the morning is worthwhile.
But David, I go back to the old JC creed. I was kicked out when I was 35 because in the JCs, you're an exhausted rooster at 35, so you have to go. But I go back to the JC creed, that faith in God gives meaning and purpose to human life. It doesn't say what God or whatever. It's just that faith in God gives meaning and purpose to human life. And I'm just a strong believer in that, and I will not change, cannot change, and just won't change.
Yes. In case some of our younger viewers, I'd say, don't know what you mean by a squawk box. I knew what you meant.
Yes.
Yes. A speaker up on the wall, and you'd hear you'd hear announcements, and I'm not sure how many of the schools now have boxes like that or speakers where they get announcements from the office.
Richmond Public School
They do.
Do have many. Yeah.
They may not call it a squawk box, but they
it sounds like it.
But it's not. But the reason we used to call it a squawk box is because it was a box about this big and about this, and it was up on the wall, usually right behind the teacher, in the front of the room, and that's where all the announcements were made. The principal would come on and make announcements to the students, and that's where all the communications. Now they still have that. It's just that it's not a box. It's just a speaker.
A fancier new speaker.
But they do still have that.
Yeah. Now, what about any other issues with the reconvene? Any amendments that you have comments on? Or?
Well, the one in my district, and then Betsy can chime in after this. This is another controversial issue. Is guns, and I'm a very strong protector of the Second Amendment rights. And the governor has amended a bill that anyone that has a gun in the car, that it must be, right now the law says secure, okay? Well, he's changed it to say locked. Well, with all the, I have a right by the Second Amendment to protect myself, my family, my person, okay? And he has amended that particular bill to say it has to be in a locked compartment, locked, not just secure, but locked. And I'm gonna vote against him on that one too. You know,
So that's an amendment, not a veto. Yeah. Yeah.
That's not a veto.
Yeah.
That is
Yeah.
an amendment,
Amendment.
right?
So other issues then beyond the reconvene, what about any issues as you look back on the session that you're not going to be dealing with here at the reconvene time that you'd like to comment on?
We've been looking at, Virginia was one of the states, in fact, many states in the Union haven't been able to keep up or haven't had laws on the books to go with, say, protecting Fourth Amendment rights in the 21st century. And with the 21st century, we've got all the things like computers, the cell phones, everything, and that brings in all different kinds of issue of security, keep maintaining privacy and so forth. So I was happy to be part of a group that worked on and did begin to move forward in that area. So Virginia has something on the books now that if a cell phone needs to be, law enforcement has to get approval from a judge before they can use a cell phone as a tracking device. So that's a little bit, and also if there are emergency circumstances, then obviously there's just conditions for if there's emergency that can be taken care of so that the law enforcement isn't hampered. But this is a step forward in ensuring that law enforcement have the tools that they need to carry out their job,
Right.
and on the other hand, not crossing the line into personal privacy issues. So I was very happy to be part of that with one of your colleagues, Delegate Marshall. We're kind of an odd couple, but it was, we had Verizon, the police, the Attorney General's office, a number of folks that all signed on. So I was very, very happy to be a part of that. Another kind of on the other end of the spectrum, cider is becoming a big thing in Virginia, and it was one of the first. Thomas Jefferson made cider and so forth. We have in the 69th district the first urban cidery, and along with that there was just a little bill that had to so that cider could be sold in wine, same containers as wine. Little thing, but it makes a big difference for bringing increasing jobs, tourism, kinds of things in Virginia. So very excited about that. And one other thing, people I think are familiar with the fact of the little boy being killed by accidental gunfire, what they call celebratory gunfire. We were able to pass something that I think will help people think twice about before they shoot a gun up in the air. It will be a felony offense if somebody gets wounded by accidental gunfire. So I think that those were three kind of big things that we were pleased about this time.
And the latter one was an event that took place here in the greater Richmond
That's right,
area.
in Chesterfield.
Yeah.
It was a father and a little boy were leaving a July 4th celebration.
And walking along, and the bullet actually came down from the...
Right, the little boy, he was
hit
just
him in the
holding
head.
the little boy's hand, all of a sudden
Yes,
the little
yeah.
boy was down. And, this also became an effort because we saw in the same area, maybe a few months later, boys were playing on a playground in basketball court, and bullets came down and landed in a bench that was right near the basketball court. So it shows that it was an issue. But this was a little loophole in the code, and now we're happy that we covered that up.
David, for me, it was the Veriol plant in Hopewell. What this was, it used to be it was an ethanol plant there in Hopewell that biofuels put together. They had close to $200 million into it. This firm they just saw it and they bid on it, $13 million. They were in England. It was a group of investors. They have experience in the industry, but they were going to dismantle it and take it back to England. And with the help of, it was Rosin Dance and myself, I patroned this, and Rosin co-patroned with me, and we were able to keep this plant in Hopewell. Now, some people, and I've had both pros and cons, and some people feel like that it's pork spending and that we should not be using the taxpayers' money this way. Here's the difference. 70 good paying new jobs for the community. The state will get every dime of their money back. It's based on 4 cents a gallon credit the first year, 3 cents a gallon the second year, and 2.5 cents a gallon the third year for every gallon they produce and sell. They must sell it, okay? Now, what this will do is, for the city of Hopewell alone, they're going to get a lot of money from the machinery and tools tax, the real estate taxes, everything else off of this property. The state is going to get income tax back. They're going to get taxes back, and they will get their money back on this. And in a matter of probably 1.5 to 2 years, they're going to actually be profiting from all of this. I mean, I'm talking about the state part.
Right.
But the city of Hopewell is going to profit from it right away. And I'm really, really excited about that. And they're going to open that plant. In fact, they've been doing tests, probably going to open this week, which is great.
Well, probably every economic development project in which the state puts in some money, either through the General Assembly or through the Governor's Opportunity Fund. Someone could call it pork, but it's pretty much essential, isn't it, these days?
Right now, with the help both Democrats and Republicans, Virginia is rated #1 state to do business in. And the reason for that is because of the things that we do. We are business friendly, and each governor that we've had has been on target, and even the governor today is working on different things for announcements that are going on right here in the Commonwealth of Virginia. And it's wonderful. It's creating jobs. We're slow moving, but we are, it's a little curve, but we are gradually getting better and better. We're getting more income coming in, which helps, because just across the school, you know, it costs more and more every year just to stay, and the teachers, they need increases in pay, and localities, and you know, I just hope that we can get a budget together and pass the budget, and which would be best for all the citizens and the localities in Virginia.
So let's talk about that a little bit, if you would. And you may have similar or different opinions about moving forward on that. What do you see? What needs to happen before you can get a budget passed?
Here's my take, and then I'll let Betsy chime in. Here's my take. I think it should be a special session. That's what we did with transportation. We have done this in the past with special session. And I think that Virginia Way is for something this big that it should be in special session. Now, my district, the people in my district, and I'm hearing both sides, but overwhelmingly, the majority of the people in my district, when I go and talk to a group, or even just out somewhere and ask someone, the majority of the people do not want Medicaid expansion. They do not want it included in the budget, and they are concerned. I've got just horror stories all over my district where people, their health care is just steady going up, up, up. And my take on it is someone has to pay. Nothing is free. There is no free money. There's nothing free. If the federal government sends it down, I don't trust them to keep their word on this. But the federal government has got to pay a bunch of money. Guess what? That's still our money. I don't care if it's Richmond money or Virginia money or Congress up in Washington money. It's still our tax dollars. And I have a problem with that. And I think that we have free clinics. We put in our budget this year to even give more money for that. We have free clinics to take care of anyone, whether it be for dental care, health care, or what have you. So my position is, let's deal with it, but let's deal with it in a special session.
Betsy?
I think I remember one writer saying in the paper is like, you know, when we go to our districts, we're going to hear whatever we come from, because that's the way the districts are divided. So just as Riley hears most of the people that are against Medicaid in his district, most of them I'm hearing from, the great majority are for it. Again, it's the money, you know, we need to use the money if it's there. Yeah, we might have to cover more people, but at least we'll have help. And also the money that went in, free clinics do a great job. However, we've taken money away from core services in order, in the budget that was passed by the House. There's the money that we took away from schools or education and other kind of core services. We've done that in order to support the free clinics and do the health care expenses that we could have been used with the federal money. So, and I think it's the sense of it being a moral and economic imperative. And I know that there are, I've heard from in other areas, the small businesses and so forth. I think that there's a way that it can be worked out. We're creative people, we're intelligent people, we're caring people. And so my hope that would be that we could all move forward in some way and make this happen, because I think it's just, it's a moral and economic imperative today.
On the Republican side in the Senate, Senator Watkins has come up with something called Marketplace Virginia, which some say it's just Medicaid expansion under another name. Some say it's not Medicaid expansion under another name.
It is. It's still there. In other words, if it's a dog, it's a dog. If it's a duck, it's a duck. If it's so it's still the same thing. It's still Medicaid expansion. Now, as I said earlier, Betsy, Carr, and myself are dear friends. I mean, I just think the world of her, but we do disagree on a lot of things. And this is one of the things that I do disagree on, because schools, we have not taken any money away from schools. We have not taken any money away from law enforcement. All of these things are still funded and even funded at more money. So that's all I'm saying is we need to deal with this in a special session instead of putting it in the budget.
And I guess that's the dilemma between the two chambers, not just between two friends in the same chamber, but the dilemma with the Senate.
Yeah. Well, see, over in the Senate, you have 17 Republicans on the Senate side that are not for Senator Watkins' proposal.
Right.
And they're not for expansion of Medicaid. But Betsy hit on a topic that I mean, she hit the nail on the head. Each one of us represent our own people. And if my people wanted me to do it, I would vote for it. And Betsy's in a different district than what I'm in. And with everything done the way it is today, we do have to listen to the constituents that we represent. And that's what we're there for.
We've got just a couple of more minutes. Let me get your all's take on an issue that's not really before you right now. You've talked about your districts. Do you see a time coming that there would be any kind of bipartisan or nonpartisan redistricting? We've been around where we've seen it done, but one majority does it one way, the other majority does it their way. Do you ever see that ever changing in your lifetimes?
That's a good question.
Yeah, it is. I put in something every year, for a constitutional amendment based on, Iowa and other things. And I know that there is a movement now starting, I think, by Lee Middleditch and other folks. I think that people are concerned about it. I think that in some ways, the way that we're districting now, it makes it so it's harder for people to come together, because we represent more, I represent the one end, Riley represents the other. So when we go to work together, if I had more of his folks in my district, or he had some more of my folks in his district, then we'd have to be more,
Right.
we come to the middle in an easier way. But now it's not hard for us to stay on our side of the line.
David, my take on it is the fact that under the Voter Act, you cannot dilute the minority voter strength. So how are you going to draw the district? In other words, how are you going to put, let's say if you was really, I mean, they have to be contiguous, and it's supposed to be compact, all right? Let's say that you have a independent commission that whatever they do is going to be final. They would put Hopewell, maybe Hopewell, Petersburg, and Prince George together. Now, what is that? Petersburg is mostly minority, but I see it very hard to do.
I'm getting a signal that we're out of time. I didn't ask that question soon enough. We will talk about that again soon. Thank you both for being on This Week in Richmond.
Thank you for having us, David.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
This Week in Richmond is made possible in part by Dignity Memorial, caring for our communities with a network of funeral homes and cemeteries in Virginia and throughout North America. More information about Dignity Memorial's providers is online at dignitymemorial.com. Alpha Natural Resources, an energy company dedicated to respecting the land. Alpha Natural Resources, we power the world through the energy of our people. Haley Buick GMC, the place for a new Verano or Terrain Denali, in Richmond and online at haleybuickgmc.com. Everywhere there are lighting poles, there's one more opportunity to save money. Intelligent Illuminations provides cost-effective wireless lighting solutions for roadway or area outdoor lights. Kanawha Valley Arena, Virginia's cowboy town, hosting an array of events from Civil War reenactments to diesel truck pulls. More information online at virginiarodeo.com. The Virginia Chamber of Commerce, the voice of the Virginia business community, working in legislative, regulatory, and political arenas to promote the free enterprise system. So what do you do? Information about getting involved in advanced technology careers, making everything from clean energy to life-saving medicine, is available at dreamitdoitvirginia.com. Additional support is provided by these sponsors. And by the members of Virginia's public television stations. Thank you.